I was scanning avocados at the grocery store when a stranger grabbed my arm and said 6 words that shattered my entire reality. Thank God you survived the fire. My name is Delia Morrison. I'm 28 years old, and until that Tuesday afternoon at Whole Foods, I thought I knew exactly who I was. Marketing manager at a tech startup, girlfriend to a sweet guy named Patrick, daughter to Renata and Glenn Morrison, sister to Toby, who steals my Netflix password every month and thinks I don't notice. I had a normal life, a good life, a real life, or so I thought. The woman holding my arm was maybe 45, with graying brown hair pulled back in a messy bun and eyes that looked like she'd been crying for years. Her name was Vera Holbrook, though I didn't know that yet. All I knew was that her fingers were digging into my skin and she was staring at me like she was seeing a ghost. "I'm sorry," I said, trying to pull away politely. "I think you have me confused with someone else." But she wouldn't let go. If anything, her grip got tighter. "Lucy Brennan. I'd recognize you anywhere. That scar above your eyebrow, the way you tilt your head when you're concentrating. Oh my God, Lucy, we thought you were dead." My heart started racing, but I forced myself to stay calm. Miami is full of confused tourists, people with heat stroke, sometimes people who aren't quite right in the head. "Ma'am, my name is Delia, not Lucy. I've never been called Lucy in my life." She pulled out her phone with shaking hands, nearly dropping it twice as she scrolled through photos. Look at this. This is you at my daughter's 10th birthday party. You were 12. You ate 3 pieces of cake and threw up in my hydrangeas." She shoved the phone in my face. The photo was old, slightly blurry, taken on what must have been an early digital camera. A group of kids around a swimming pool. And there, in the corner, a girl with my exact face. Same unusual green eyes with gold flecks that everyone always comments on. Same crooked smile that only pulls up on the left side. Same small scar above the left eyebrow that my parents said came from falling off my bike when I was 7. "That's not me," I said, but my voice came out as a whisper. "Your parents were Robert and Helen Brennan. You had a little sister named Cora who followed you everywhere. You lived 3 houses down from me in Millbrook, Pennsylvania. You had a stuffed elephant named Mr. Peanuts that you carried everywhere until you were 10, and your dad accidentally put it in the donation box for Goodwill. You cried for 3 days." Each word hit me like a physical blow, not because I remembered any of it, but because of how specific it was, how certain she was. Nobody makes up details about stuffed elephants and thrown-up birthday cake. The fire was December 15th, 2009. She continued, and now tears were rolling down her cheeks. The whole neighborhood woke up to the sirens. 4 bodies, they found 4 bodies. We all went to the memorial service. I spoke at your funeral, Lucy. I spoke at your funeral, and here you are, buying avocados like nothing happened. The store suddenly felt too bright, too loud, the Muzak version of some pop song scratching at my ears, the fluorescent lights burning my eyes. Other shoppers were starting to stare, probably wondering if they should call security about the crying woman gripping a stranger in the produce section. "I grew up in Florida," I managed to say. "I've lived here my whole life. You're confused. You need help." But even as I said it, something cold was spreading through my chest. Because the truth was, I didn't remember much about my childhood before 13. My parents always said it was from the meningitis, that high fevers could damage memory formation, that it was a miracle I survived at all, that I should focus on the future instead of worrying about a past I couldn't remember. Vera finally let go of my arm, but only to grab my hand instead. She turned it over, examining my palm like she was reading my fortune. "You have a scar here, too, right at the base of your thumb, from when you tried to pet Mrs. Chen's cat and it scratched you. You needed 3 stitches." I looked down at my hand, at the thin white line I'd never really noticed before, never asked about, never wondered why I had it. "I don't know you," I said, pulling my hand back. "I don't know anyone named Robert or Helen or Cora. My parents are Renata and Glenn Morrison. My brother is Toby. We live in Coral Gables. I went to Palmetto High School. I graduated from the University of Florida. You have the wrong person." Vera reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. Her hands were steadier now, like she'd made some kind of decision. I understand this must be overwhelming, but Lucy, honey, you're alive. Somehow, some way, you're alive. When you're ready to know the truth, call me. I'll tell you everything. About your real parents, about Cora, about the fire, about why everyone in Millbrook thinks you've been dead for 15 years. She pressed the card into my hand, gave my fingers one last squeeze, and walked away. Just like that, left me standing there with 3 avocados in my basket and my entire world tilting off its axis. I looked down at the card, Vera Holbrook, registered nurse, Millbrook General Hospital, the Pennsylvania phone number, real information, not the rambling of someone delusional. The scar on my hand seemed to pulse. The one above my eyebrow tingled. And for the first time in my life, I wondered if the reason I couldn't remember my childhood wasn't because of meningitis at all. My phone buzzed, a text from my mom. Don't forget dinner Sunday, your father is making his famous lasagna. Glenn Morrison, the man who taught me to ride a bike when I was supposedly 7, the one who walked me down the aisle at my college graduation, the one whose eyes never quite met mine when I asked about baby photos, about why there were so few pictures of me before middle school. I abandoned my shopping cart right there between the avocados and the oranges, walked out of Whole Foods on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else, got in my car and sat there, engine off, air conditioning off, just sweating in the Miami heat and staring at that business card. Lucy Brennan, a girl who died in a fire when she was 13, the same age I was when my memories began. Before Vera Holbrook grabbed my arm in that grocery store, my Tuesday had been completely ordinary. I'd woken up at 7, gone for my usual 3-mile run along the beach, showered while listening to a true crime podcast about a woman who faked her own death. The irony of that wasn't lost on me now. I worked from home that day, answering emails and fine-tuning a marketing campaign for a new app that helped people find lost pets. Another irony I couldn't appreciate until later. Around 2 in the afternoon, I decided to make something special for dinner. Patrick was coming over and I wanted to impress him with this complicated Thai curry recipe I'd found online. That's what brought me to Whole Foods. Lemongrass, galangal, Thai basil, ingredients for a meal I would never make. My life in Miami was everything a 28-year-old could want. I had a cute apartment in Coconut Grove with exposed brick walls and a balcony where I grew herbs that usually died within a month. My job at the startup paid well enough that I didn't have to check my bank balance before buying the expensive groceries at Whole Foods. Patrick and I had been dating for 8 months, and he was starting to leave things at my place. A toothbrush, a phone charger, his favorite coffee mug with a chemistry joke on it that I didn't understand but pretended to find funny. My parents lived 20 minutes away in Coral Gables, in the same peach-colored house where I'd supposedly grown up. My mom, Renata, was a successful real estate agent who sold waterfront properties to tech millionaires and called me every day at lunch to make sure I was eating properly. She had this way of worrying about me that seemed excessive, even for a mother. Always asking if I was feeling okay, if I remembered to take my vitamins, if I was having any headaches or memory problems. My dad, Glenn, was quieter. He worked as an accountant for a firm downtown, but he traveled a lot for work, or at least that's what he said. Sometimes he'd be gone for weeks, coming back with tired eyes and gifts from cities he could never quite describe in detail. Oh, you know, meetings and hotels, he'd say when I asked about his trips. Nothing worth talking about. Then there was Toby, my younger brother. 4 years younger, but somehow more put together than me. He was in law school at University of Miami, top of his class, dating a girl named Brooke who was definitely too good for him. Toby was the golden child in every way. Tall, where I was average, naturally athletic, where I had to work for every mile I ran, blessed with our mother's thick dark hair while mine was thin and light brown. He used to joke at family dinners that I must have been adopted because I looked nothing like anyone else in the family. Maybe the mailman had green eyes, he'd say, pointing at mine, and Mom would shut him down so fast it made everyone uncomfortable. That's not funny, Toby. Genetics are complicated. Delia takes after Glenn's grandmother. I'd never seen a picture of Glenn's grandmother. The thing about my childhood memories, or lack of them, was that I'd learned not to think about it too much. When you can't remember something, your brain fills in the gaps with what must have been. I must have had birthday parties. I must have learned to swim in our backyard pool. I must have gone to elementary school somewhere in the area. The meningitis story made sense. High fever, weeks in the hospital, memory damage. It happened to people. Why question it? My parents had photos of me, of course. Not many from before I was 13, but some. Me in a hospital bed, thin and pale. Me at what must have been my 14th birthday, looking confused but smiling. Me on my first day of high school, wearing a uniform I didn't remember picking out. They all showed the same girl who looked back at me from the mirror every morning, but somehow they felt like photos of a stranger. Like someone had photoshopped my face onto another person's life. But these were the kinds of thoughts I pushed away. Everyone feels disconnected from their childhood self. Everyone looks at old photos and thinks, was that really me? It didn't mean anything. It couldn't mean anything. Until Vera Holbrook said the name Lucy Brennan, and the normal life I thought I had started crumbling like a house on fire. Vera had approached me slowly at first, like someone trying not to spook a wild animal. I'd noticed her from the corner of my eye, hovering by the organic bananas, staring. Miami was full of lonely people who struck up conversations in grocery stores, so I'd purposely avoided eye contact, focusing harder on selecting the perfect avocados. But she kept moving closer. When she finally rushed forward and called me Lucy, her voice cracked like she was choking on the name. Lucy? Lucy, is that really you? I'm sorry, you must have me confused with someone else, I said, using my polite professional voice, the one I used for difficult clients. No, I'd recognize you anywhere. The way you tilt your head when you're thinking. You used to do that as a little girl. Her eyes were scanning my face like she was trying to memorize every detail. My name is Delia. I've lived in Florida my whole life. Florida? No, honey. You lived 3 houses down from me in Millbrook, Pennsylvania. Your parents were Robert and Helen Brennan. The names meant nothing to me. They should have sounded foreign, completely unfamiliar. But something about the way she said them, with such certainty and familiarity, made my stomach tighten. Vera pulled out her phone with trembling fingers, scrolling frantically through what must have been thousands of photos. Here, look, please, just look. She found what she was searching for and thrust the phone at me. This is you at my daughter Kayla's birthday party, July 2009, 5 months before the fire. The photo showed a pool party, kids in bright swimsuits, a cake shaped like a dolphin. And there, sitting on the edge of the pool with her feet in the water, was a girl who looked exactly like me. Not similar, not close, exactly like me. You had a stuffed elephant named Mr. Peanuts, Vera continued, the words tumbling out faster now. You got him when you were 3 and carried him everywhere. You were allergic to strawberries but loved them anyway. Your mom had to keep Benadryl in her purse at all times. You wanted to be a marine biologist. You had a fish tank in your room with 3 goldfish named Snap, Crackle, and Pop. Each detail was so specific, so random, that it couldn't be rehearsed. Nobody would make up goldfish named after cereal mascots. You're scaring me, I said, and it was true. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Please stop. But she couldn't stop. It was like a dam had broken. You broke your arm falling out of the Thompsons' treehouse when you were 8. You played clarinet in the middle school band, but you were terrible at it. Your dad called you Lucky Lucy because you always won at board games. Your little sister Cora worshipped you. She used to follow you around wearing your old clothes, trying to walk like you, talk like you. Other shoppers were definitely staring now. A store employee in a green apron was heading our way, probably coming to check on the situation. The fire was December 15th, 2009, Vera said, and her voice dropped to almost a whisper. It was 3 in the morning. The smoke alarms didn't go off. The investigators said they'd been disabled. The whole house went up so fast. By the time the fire trucks arrived, it was too late. Stop, I said, backing away, knocking into a display of oranges. Several rolled onto the floor. They found 4 bodies, badly burned, but they identified them through dental records. Robert, Helen, Cora, and you. We all went to the memorial service. The whole town. Your grandmother, Judith, nearly collapsed at the cemetery. She's never been the same. She still visits your grave every Sunday. I have a grave? The words came out before I could stop them. Millbrook Cemetery. Section C. There's a headstone with your name on it. Lucy Marie Brennan, 1996 to 2009. beloved daughter and sister. The store employee reached us then, a young guy with concerned eyes. Is everything okay here, ladies? She's confused, I told him. She thinks I'm someone else, someone who died. Vera looked at him, then back at me. I'm not confused. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 20 years. I know what I'm seeing. This is Lucy Brennan. She's supposed to be dead, but she's standing right here buying avocados. The employee looked between us, clearly out of his depth. Should I call someone? No, I said quickly. I'm leaving. I abandoned my basket and practically ran for the exit, but I could hear Vera calling after me. Your birthmark. You have a birthmark shaped like a crescent moon on your left shoulder blade. Lucy, please, just check. Just look. I burst out of the automatic doors into the humid Miami afternoon, my shirt already sticking to my back with sweat. My hands were shaking so badly, I dropped my car keys twice before managing to unlock my Honda. As I sat in the driver's seat trying to catch my breath, I couldn't stop myself from reaching back, pulling my shirt aside, craning my neck to see my left shoulder blade in the rearview mirror. There it was, a small birthmark I'd never really noticed or thought about, shaped exactly like a crescent moon. I sat in my car for 10 minutes before I could stop shaking enough to drive. When I finally pulled out of the Whole Foods parking lot, I didn't head home. I couldn't face my apartment with its normal life and Patrick's chemistry mug and the Thai curry ingredients I'd never buy now. Instead, I drove to Bayfront Park and sat in my car with the air conditioning blasting, staring at the water. My phone rang, Mom calling. My finger hovered over the answer button for 3 rings. 4 rings? 5. Finally, I picked up. Hi, sweetie. Just checking if you're still coming for dinner Sunday. I want to make sure I get enough groceries. Her voice sounded exactly the same as always. Warm, slightly anxious, perpetually concerned about whether I was eating enough. Mom, I need to ask you something. Of course, honey. What is it? Who is Lucy Brennan? The silence lasted exactly 4 seconds. I counted them. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. Where are you? Her voice had changed completely. Gone was the warm mother hen tone. This was sharp, alert, almost professional. Mom, why did you pause? Who is Lucy Brennan? Delia, come home right now. Don't talk to anyone else. Come straight home. A woman at the grocery store said I was Lucy Brennan. She said Lucy died in a fire in 2009. She had photos, Mom. Photos of a girl who looked exactly like me. Are you still with this woman? No, I'm alone. Mom, what's going on? Nothing's going on. Sometimes people have similar faces. There are only so many facial combinations possible. You learned about this in your genetics class, remember? I'd never taken a genetics class. She knew about my birthmark, the crescent moon one on my shoulder. Another pause. Shorter this time, but I heard her sharp intake of breath. Lots of people have birthmarks. Delia, please, come home. Your father and I need to talk to you. Dad's at work. No, he's here. He came home early. Please, sweetheart, just come home. Dad never came home early. In 28 years, I could count on one hand the number of times Glenn Morrison had left work before 5 o'clock. The fact that he was home now, in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon, told me everything I needed to know. I'll be there in an hour, I lied. 20 minutes. You're 20 minutes away. Traffic is bad. Delia, please. Her voice cracked on my name that might not be my name. I hung up. My laptop was in my car, the one I'd been working on that morning. I drove to a Starbucks, ordered a coffee I didn't want just to use their Wi-Fi, and opened Google. Brennan Family Fire, Millbrook, Pennsylvania, 2009. The results loaded instantly. First hit was a news article from the Millbrook Gazette, dated December 16, 2009. Local family perishes in tragic house fire. The photo wouldn't load at first. The Starbucks Wi-Fi was slow, or maybe my hands were shaking too much to hold the laptop steady. When it finally appeared, I had to close the computer and breathe into my hands. The family portrait showed 4 people standing in front of a blue house with white shutters. The father, Robert, tall and lanky with kind eyes. The mother, Helen, with light brown hair just like mine. A little girl, maybe 9 years old, grinning with missing front teeth. That must have been Cora. And then there was the older daughter, 13 years old, my face, my exact face, Same nose that turned up slightly at the tip. Same uneven eyebrows, the left one always slightly higher. Same everything. I opened the laptop again and read the article. 4 victims. Fire started around 3 a.m. Suspected electrical malfunction. Smoke detectors failed to activate. Bodies burned beyond recognition but identified through dental records. Memorial service to be held at St. Mary's Church on December 19th. Another article, this one from December 20th. Hundreds gather to mourn Brennan family. A photo of a packed church, a quote from someone named Vera Holbrook. Lucy was like a second daughter to me. She was bright, funny, kind. This tragedy has broken our hearts. My phone was buzzing constantly now. Mom calling, Dad calling, even Toby texting. Mom says, "Come home now, what's happening?" I pulled up Expedia on my laptop. There was a flight to Pittsburgh leaving in 3 hours. From there, Millbrook was an hour's drive. I could be there by tonight. I could stand in front of that blue house with white shutters, or whatever was there now. I could visit the grave with my name on it. I booked the flight using my credit card, $437 for a same-day ticket. As the confirmation email arrived, my phone rang again. This time it was Patrick. "Hey babe, your mom just called me. She sounds really worried. She wants to know where you are." "I'm fine. Tell her I'm fine." "You don't sound fine. What's going on?" "I have to go out of town for a few days. Work emergency." "What kind of emergency?" "You work in marketing." "I'll explain later." I hung up on him too. Then I turned off my phone completely. If my parents had been lying to me for 15 years, they could wait a few more hours for an explanation. I had a plane to catch and a grave to visit. My own grave. The flight to Pittsburgh was the longest 2.5 hours of my life. I'd bought Wi-Fi on the plane and spent the entire time researching. Every article about the fire, every mention of the Brennan family, Lucy's obituary, which mentioned she loved swimming, reading Nancy Drew mysteries, and playing with her little sister. All things I couldn't remember, but that felt true somehow, like recovering from amnesia in reverse. I rented a car at the airport and drove through the darkness toward Millbrook. It was a small town exactly as Vera had described. The kind of place where everyone knew everyone, where the local diner was called Sally's and had probably been there for 50 years, where families lived in the same houses for generations. The GPS led me to where 427 Maple Street should have been, the Brennan house. My house, supposedly. It was an empty lot now, just grass and a few stubborn flowers that someone still maintained. In the corner stood a small stone memorial. I used my phone's flashlight to read it, in memory of Robert, Helen, Lucy, and Cora Brennan, together forever. Someone had left fresh daisies there. They couldn't have been more than a day old. "Those are from Judith." I spun around. Vera stood behind me holding a thermos and looking unsurprised. "Your grandmother. She brings daisies every week. Lucy's favorite flower. How did you know I'd be here? Where else would you go? When someone tells you that you died, you go looking for proof." She held out the thermos. "Coffee, it's cold tonight." I took it, grateful for something to do with my shaking hands. The girl in those photos looks exactly like me. Not looks like. Is you are Lucy Brennan. I know it sounds impossible, but you're standing here and I watched you grow up for 13 years. I know you. Take me to the grandmother, Judith. It was nearly 10 at night, but Vera didn't argue. She drove and I followed her to Sunny Acres nursing home. "She doesn't sleep much anymore," Vera explained as we walked through the quiet hallways. "Hasn't since the fire." Judith Brennan was sitting in a chair by her window, staring out at nothing. 90 years old, but sharp-eyed, thin white hair braided neatly. When she saw me, her entire body went rigid. "No," she whispered. Then louder, "No, no, no, this is cruel. This is too cruel." "Mrs. Brennan," Vera said gently, "look at her. Really look." The old woman stood up, surprisingly steady, and walked toward me. Her fingers touched my face, traced the scar above my eyebrow. "You got this falling off your bike. You were 7. I was watching you, and I've never forgiven myself for looking away." "I don't remember," I said. "The birthmark on your shoulder, shaped like a moon. Your mother used to say it meant you were destined for something special." Her voice broke. "Lucy? My Lucy?" She grabbed my hand, turned it over. This scar, Mrs. Chen's cat. You cried so hard, not because it hurt, but because you thought the cat would get in trouble. Every word she spoke felt like a key, turning in a lock I didn't know existed. Not memories exactly, but a recognition deeper than memory. I need to call my parents, I said, the people who raised me. Judith's face hardened. What people? Who took you? Who stole you from us? I pulled out my phone and turned it back on. 43 missed calls. I put it on speaker and called my father's cell. He answered on the first ring. Delia, thank God, where are you? I'm in Millbrook, Pennsylvania. I'm with Judith Brennan. She says I'm her granddaughter. Silence. Then my mother's voice in the background. Put her on speaker. We saved you. My father's voice was different now. Resigned. Exhausted. Like he'd been preparing for this moment for 15 years. The fire wasn't an accident. Your birth father had gambling debts. Bad people. Very bad people. We were private investigators hired to look into threats against the family. Your private investigators? My voice sounded hollow. Were. We retired after we got you. Became the boring accountant and real estate agent you knew. But back then, yes, Robert Brennan hired us 2 weeks before the fire. He'd been getting threats. Dead animals left on the doorstep. Photos of you and Cora with their faces cut out. He wanted protection. My mother's voice took over. We told him to go to the police, but he was scared they were connected to the people threatening him. We convinced him to let us get you and Cora out first. Then we'd deal with the parents. The plan was to fake your deaths, get you all into witness protection. But it didn't work, I said. You were supposed to have a sleepover at Vera's house that night. All 4 of you would sneak out. We'd stage a fire with accelerants that would destroy any DNA evidence. Use cadavers from Glenn's medical examiner contact. It was all planned. Vera gasped. The sleepover. You canceled it last minute. Said Lucy was feeling sick. We got Lucy out that afternoon, Glenn continued. Told her there was a medical emergency, that she needed to come with us right away. We were going to come back for Cora that evening, then the parents at midnight. But Robert changed his mind. Called us and said he'd handled it. Paid off the debts. Everything was fine. Told us to bring Lucy back. But you didn't. We couldn't. We'd already started the process. Lucy was already legally dead on paper. And something felt wrong. Glenn wanted to wait 1 more day just to be sure, my mother said. The fire that night was real. Glenn's voice was barely audible. The people Robert owed money to didn't believe he'd paid, or maybe they just wanted to send a message to others. 3 a.m, the whole house went up. We tried to go back. God, we tried. But the roads were blocked, and by the time we got there, it was over. Judith was crying silently, her hand still gripping mine. So you kept me, I said. You stole me. We saved you, my mother insisted. If we'd taken you back, you would have died with them. And afterward, what were we supposed to do? Tell the authorities we'd kidnapped you hours before your family was murdered. We'd go to prison, and you'd go into foster care with a target on your back. We loved you, Glenn said quietly. We couldn't have children. You needed parents. It seemed like fate. What about my memories? Why can't I remember anything? Trauma response, my mother said. You didn't speak for 3 months. When you finally did, you didn't remember anything before the day we got you. The doctors said it was your mind protecting itself. We just went with it, became your parents, gave you a normal life. A life built on lies. A life, Glenn said firmly. You're alive. That's what matters. I looked at Judith, whose face was a map of grief and joy fighting for dominance. Is there anyone else? Other family? My sister in Oregon. Some cousins. They all think you're dead. She cupped my face in her hands. But you're not. You're here. My Lucy is here. I'm Delia, I said gently. I've been Delia for 15 years. You're both, Vera said. You're both, and that's okay. I thought about the grave with my name on it. The girl who died at 13 and the woman who began at 13. The fire that killed Lucy Brennan and created Delia Morrison. 2 lives separated by flames and lies and love so complicated I couldn't parse where the crime ended and the miracle began. Toby, I said suddenly. My brother. Is he real? IVF, my mother said. 2 years after we got you. The fertility treatments finally worked. He's ours biologically. So one truth in the pile of lies. One real thing in my manufactured life. I don't know what to do with this, I said to the room, to all of them, to none of them. You don't have to do anything tonight, Judith said, pulling me into an embrace that smelled like lavender and felt like coming home. You're alive. You're here. For now, that's enough. 6 months have passed since I stood in that nursing home room, caught between 2 names, 2 families, 2 entire lives. The truth, I've learned, isn't something you can package neatly and file away. It spreads through your life like cracks in glass, changing everything while somehow leaving it whole. I kept the name Delia Morrison. It's who I've been for 15 years. The name on my college degree, my driver's license, my entire adult life. But I added Lucy as a middle name. Delia Lucy Morrison, a bridge between who I was and who I am. Judith moved to Miami 3 weeks after I found her. We told people she was my grandmother we'd recently discovered through ancestry DNA testing. Not exactly a lie, just a careful arrangement of truth. She has an apartment 5 minutes from mine, and every Sunday she makes pot roast the way Helen used to make it. The smell triggers something in me that isn't quite memory but isn't not memory either. Sometimes she calls me Lucy by accident. I don't correct her anymore. Vera visits once a month. She brings photo albums and stories, filling in the gaps of a childhood I can't remember. Her daughter Kayla, the one whose birthday party I attended in that photograph, is married now with twins. She cried when she saw me for the first time. I always felt like part of my childhood was missing, she said. Now I know why. The Morrisons, Renata and Glenn, are still my parents. This was the hardest truth to accept. They kidnapped me. Yes, they built my entire life on a foundation of lies. But they also loved me with a fierceness that saved my life. Every overprotective moment, every excessive worry about my health, every time my mother called to make sure I was safe, it all made sense now. They were terrified of losing me again. We go to family therapy every Wednesday. Dr. Rodriguez specializes in what she calls complex family dynamics, which is a polite way of saying absolutely insane situations that shouldn't exist. Glenn cried during our 3rd session, the first time I'd ever seen him show that kind of emotion. Every single day, I wondered if we did the right thing, he said. Every day I waited for someone to knock on the door and take you away. Toby took it the hardest. My brother, who wasn't quite my brother, who'd joked about me being adopted, who'd been right all along without knowing it. So you're not my sister? He asked during one particularly brutal family dinner. I'm exactly as much your sister as I was yesterday, I told him. And yesterday and every day before that, I was completely your sister. He thinks about this sometimes, I can see it on his face, but he still steals my Netflix password, and that feels like forgiveness. Patrick and I broke up 2 months after I got back from Millbrook, not because of the revelation, but because of how I handled it. You disappeared, he said. You found out your entire life was a lie and you didn't trust me enough to tell me. He was right. I'm working on trust in therapy too. The hardest part was deciding what to do with the truth publicly. There were legal implications to consider. The Morrisons had technically kidnapped me even if they saved my life. There was insurance fraud from my death, though I had nothing to do with that. There were death certificates and legal documents and 1,000 complicated knots. In the end, we kept it quiet. The statute of limitations had passed on most of the crimes. The people who killed my birth family were never caught. Probably never will be. Going public would only put a target on my back again. Some secrets we decided are worth keeping. But I did start something. A foundation called the Phoenix Project for children who lose families to violence. Children who have to rise from the ashes of their former lives and become someone new. We've helped 12 kids so far find safe homes, new identities when needed, therapy always. Judith is our biggest donor. She says it's what Robert and Helen would have wanted. I think about them sometimes, the parents I can't remember. Robert, who tried to protect us and failed. Helen, who made pot roast on Sundays and braided my hair. Cora, my little sister who wore my hand-me-downs and followed me everywhere. They're buried in Millbrook Cemetery, Section C, under headstones I've now visited 17 times. I leave daisies, like Judith taught me. My headstone is gone now. We had it removed quietly, no announcement, no fanfare. Lucy Brennan didn't die in that fire, but she didn't survive it either. She became someone else, someone who could live with impossible truths and still wake up every morning, go for a run, make coffee, exist in the space between one life and another. There's a quote I found in one of Helen's journals that Vera saved. She wrote it when I was 10, 3 years before the fire. Lucy asked me today if people can be reborn while they're still alive. I told her yes, every morning when we wake up, we choose who to be. She was right, though not in the way she meant it. I was reborn in fire and lies and desperate love. I chose to be Delia while carrying Lucy in my bones. Every morning, I wake up and choose to be both, to be neither, to be myself in whatever form that takes. The woman in the grocery store was right. I am Lucy Brennan, and Lucy Brennan is supposed to be dead. But I'm also Delia Morrison, and Delia Morrison is very much alive. Some people get one life. Through tragedy and miracle and the complicated love of flawed people trying their best, I got 2. The fire that should have killed me gave me a different kind of life instead. Not better, not worse, just different. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Sometimes the lies that save us become the truth we live. Sometimes families are made of blood and DNA and shared history. Sometimes they're made of desperate choices and fierce protection, and love so complicated it takes years to untangle. My name is Delia Lucy Morrison. I died in a fire when I was 13. I was born in a lie when I was 13. Both of these things are true. Both of these things are me, and I'm okay with that now. Finally, impossibly, okay. If this story touched you or made you think differently about the complexities of family, truth, and survival, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Your comments mean everything, whether you're sharing your own story or just letting me know how this one affected you. And if you want to hear more stories about the impossible choices people make and the lives that grow from them, subscribe to this channel. Every week I share real stories that remind us that truth is stranger, more complex, and ultimately more beautiful than fiction. Thank you for listening to my story, for holding space for both Lucy and Delia, and for understanding that sometimes the most profound truths live in the spaces between what was and what is.